Hello, Austin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Great.
Okay. So we're going to do a lifetime Akashic reading today for you. And I'll be recording, so don't worry about that. And this is a kind of reading that you're going to be able to listen to for the rest of your life whenever you want to. And it'll always have something that'll sort of help heal some kind of question that you might have about yourself or give you some kind of way of choosing the better direction for yourself. So it's important in that way, and to be used in that way. So the first thing the Akashic Records like to point out to us, by the way, I wanted to mention before I go into the records, you can put me on mute, because I'll be talking for about an hour, hour and a half, non-stop. That way you'll have an unbroken record. You can stop me if I'm saying something that you're completely not understanding, and you say, could you say that in another way? But if you get any questions along the way, just write them down, and we'll have them at the end of the session. There's always going to be time for questions, so don't worry about that. Okay? And if you want to, you could put me on mute. That way we won't get any feedback on your record from your end if something drops or whatever happens. Once in a while, I might say, are you still there? Because I'll hear a funny click or something like that. And just come back on real quick and just say, yep, I'm still here. So that I'm not talking to myself. You know.
All right, gotcha.
I did that once for 45 minutes. If we do lose connection, just call right back, okay?
Okay.
And I'll hear a couple of beeps and I'll know, oh, we probably lost connection, and I'll connect back up with you.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Other than that, you can put me on mute, and I'll just tear into your records, okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, the first thing the records always like to start out with is to say that there's nothing but awareness. And awareness isn't something strange. It's just what you have and what you're listening with right now. So you already have awareness. So it's nothing you need to get or accomplish. It's already there. And the thing is, we don't pay attention to awareness. We pay attention to what appears within awareness, which are thoughts, moods, ideas, people, place, things, sensations, experiences. And that appears within this full, sky-like open awareness that you're listening with right now. And to be awakened or enlightened is to realize that you are that awareness. And what appears within that awareness, whatever phenomena arises or abides or goes, are like clouds within the mind sky of your natural awareness. That's absolutely the true nature of your own self. Now, what we're going to talk about today is all the experiences that you've had or will have in the future that will bring up concepts that are like these phenomena or clouds that appear in the sky of your awareness that sort of distract you into thinking, oh, you're that one thing, that one cloud, rather than the full sky. And the idea is so that you can look at these things as they appear in your life and not get frustrated by them and not get worked up or collapse yourself into thinking you're that limited concept. But actually understanding that this is just things that are appearing in the mind sky of my being, which is that awareness. That's what I am. It's completely invulnerable. And, can the cloud compromise the sky? No. All these things that appear, 24/7, they really can't compromise who you are. You can think they do. You can give them enough meaning to think that they do, but that only leads to an unhappy life. So we're going to talk about all those things that you come in this lifetime with that may arise during the course of your lifetime. And they're kind of like tricks trying to keep you small and limited, and thus causing frustrations and things like that. And hopefully, if you're wise to them when they come up, you'll say, you know what, I'm not going to fall for that. My thoughts are not the boss of me. And you allow yourself just to remain purely aware of the awareness that's listening right now, that you truly are. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, they do want to mention to you that they're very happy that you're having this life because you are a universal person and you can do lots of good for humanity, or at least large groups of people. You are a giver, and you're in this life to complete many things, and you don't have to worry about a timeline, because when you've come in the movie of this lifetime to complete things, things will be completed, whether you like it or not. The movie is already there so that you're going to have things complete. How you take those things is going to make a difference. For instance, one time when I got my first job, when I was working, I was like 16 years old in high school, and I got my working permit. So I got a job in a library, and I got fired after 2 months. And it was kind of, everybody would say, oh, how awful, your first job and you got fired. But my idea of it was like, oh, great, now I don't have to do that anymore, and I can go on to something new. That's finished and complete. So that's the kind of orientation that you have to take. When things end, it only means you're done with that, you've learned what you can, and now you can go on and understand and learn something else. By the way, you love to learn. You're very, very good at learning as well. The other thing about you, too, they want you to know right off the bat, is that you have a great heart. And that's maybe one of the major things you want to do, is not let your mind cloud up. Your heart responds to everything. Because the heart is one of the main things for you to keep open this lifetime. It's about the job of the business of being open-hearted in your relationships. And, everything is a reflection of your relationship with yourself, because there's only yourself, that awareness. So everything that happens that looks like, somebody else is concerned, that's just a self-projection of an aspect of yourself that you get to love and open up to. And you have a great love of life, a great love of children, youthfulness. You're really a child at heart, and very creative and inventive. And they want you to know that about yourself, because what happens for you, just to put it in a nutshell, you're here to connect, which is about love, because love connects us all, and to be kind, and to help out in that way. What you have to overcome in order to do that this lifetime is a lot of self-doubt that you've picked up through limited concepts and beliefs in the past about yourself, especially the one where you don't feel like you deserve love. You don't deserve to be in even and happy relationship with others. You don't deserve to be healthy. You don't deserve to be happy. And these are just concepts that you picked up from past lives and future lives that, mistakenly, through taking a circumstance too seriously, you came up with an extreme conclusion like, oh, I guess I don't deserve to be loved or be happy or healthy. So we want to let all that heal this lifetime by having faith in the inherent wholeness of awareness that you actually are listening with, already have, and just haven't paid too much attention to before. Now we can pay attention to that wholeness. And what that does, it sort of erases, starts to dissolve all those old limited beliefs that you don't deserve love, because you recognize, hey, I am love. I'm the awareness that connects all things. Everything arises within it. Everything is that awareness. It's the dynamic energy of that awareness. So it's all me, and in that sense, what's worth not loving, either apparently outside of myself or within my own self. To have that faith in that. And here's the important thing highlighted in golden light. And also to know that you need nothing more. See, because that's what causes the frustration this lifetime. The fact that what's in front of me isn't enough and I need more. And it really is a true belief that you've picked up. It's an amalgamation of a lot of experiences that you've had in the past and in the future where, you didn't feel satisfied. And you fell into the belief that, I need more than what I'm getting, what I'm having. Which is an interesting and ironic thing, Austin, because you're here as a giver. If you're going to really fulfill and walk your path rightly in what you were designed to be, then you certainly can't have that other thought in your mind, but I need to get more. See, the idea I need to get more compromises you in that you're not allowed to just show up, shine, and give what you can, and shine all that love that you can. be connected in love, be kind, you know. So it's the idea that it's not enough right now, I'm not enough, and I don't deserve to be enough, and I absolutely need more. That causes all the frustrations. You know, so it's really simple. You know, when Austin is frustrated, it's because of that one thing. A lot of it is because you're kind of designed as a character this lifetime to be very ambitious. You know, you really want to do things in the world, you know, and you want to kind of accomplish things in the world, which is nothing's wrong with that, but you have to realize what the world is, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But not right now. But you have that ambition and that high standard, and you have human concern. So your ambition is to create high standards for the value of human life, which is a feelingful thing, not a thinking thing. What happens is because you have this ambition to give to humanity in a higher way, and you have this high standard which calls for perfection, you very rarely see your efforts or other people's efforts as being perfect. Big mistake. Big mistake on the level of the intellect. Because everything stems from intelligence and wholeness. Everything is awareness, or the dynamic energy of awareness, which is the same thing. And when you start to sort this out and that out and say, this is perfect and this is not perfect and what's in front of me isn't perfect and isn't enough, then you cause yourself a lot of frustration. You find a lot of fault in the world and people in the world, and you forget it's a self-projection of your own self, and you're just really naming yourself, demeaning yourself into feeling, again, that you're not perfect, you don't deserve love, you don't deserve health, you don't deserve happiness. So what's real perfection? It's just the awareness that you're listening with now. And it's not your awareness. It's awareness itself. It's the same awareness that's in you as the same awareness that's in me. In fact, right now, awareness is talking to awareness about awareness. So it's all very even in that sense. And, you know, I was at a non-duality meeting last night in Raleigh, and one guy said, I don't feel like I'm up to being awake. I don't think I qualify for awakeness. And I looked at him and I said, you mean you're saying that you don't qualify to be yourself? That's like a fish saying, I don't qualify for being a fish, But we all qualify for being awareness. We all are awareness. But when we're an infant and we start to get told by our fathers and mothers, they point to us and say, Austin, Austin, and they point to our body. Then we collapse into thinking we're only this body, and this body's name is Austin. And then they tell you you've got to make, do, and achieve, and be somebody, and it's up to you. You've got to do it within your own mind, which is separate from other minds. And, we lose all of that which we learn from our extraterrestrial experiences about connection. And of course, we know we're going to do that when we come down here on the third dimension. But if we stick with that all throughout our lives, it's not going to make for a happy life. So at one point we have to kind of turn around and realize that that's been a lot of hooey that we've been taught since we were yay high. Because as an infant, we didn't know we were separate from anything. As an infant, we didn't have linear thoughts stringing through our mind about a me that was separate from a you. All of that was learned when we came down here. If we remember that it was learned, we can start to unlearn it and come back to that connection, come back to that kindness. Understand perfection is achieved only through what is as awareness arising as itself, which it does perfectly every moment. And there's no such thing as more, there's no such thing as less, there's no such thing as good, there's no such thing as bad. Everything is just happening now, evenly, unceasingly, uninterrupted, and open. And that's astonishing and amazing and awesome, And so that brings that unbroken bliss consciousness, and certainly it doesn't really allow for frustrations. Your ambition really, chiefly, is to remember your wholeness. We'll talk a little bit more about that before, but right now I just want to press on the point. Perfection is what you are, and what all this is as an extension of what you are. So when we get into stuff like things aren't perfect because they're not timely. Things aren't perfect because they don't look this way instead of that way. We start to shoot ourselves in the foot. We don't remember that perfection really and always is. And now is enough in love. So that's a lot to hear, I know, but that really is in a nutshell what's going on. And that's really what your real security is. To know yourself and to see yourself in a constant loving and kind way as perfectly unfolding just as it is in the moment. Okay, now, one of the things that you're here to learn in this lifetime is that you have to trust your intuition. And I mentioned the word faith before. And I'm not kidding. Those are two really big things for you, faith and trust. But here's the big kicker for you, Austin. You have to have faith in the right things. The only thing that's right about this world and perfect about this world is the awareness that you're listening with now. You have to take your great ability to concentrate and be determined to know yourself as that awareness and not get fooled by what appears within awareness, this body, this mind, other people's bodies and minds, circumstances that appear to be happening. All of that's tomfoolery. What's real is what's listening right now, and only that. All the rest is like the icing on the cake because it's that awareness in its active form. So as such, everything is a perfect rainbow that appears in front of you. Everything is already all right. It doesn't mean that you won't use your ambition to go and do good in the world. Do all the good you can on all levels, but do it in a sense of it's fine. However it turns out is fine. Whatever it is, it's fine. Not to invest in an outcome in such a way that I get frustrated when I feel like it's not happening the way I think it should happen. Let me look and see if that thought of how I think it should happen is how it's kind of arrogant. Because what should happen is what's already happening. And either you're going to come in alignment with the truth of that, or you're going to be frustrated all the time. So here you are, a person of great intuition. And here you are, a person that can help so many people. But you've got to trust that. And you don't trust that when you distrust the world. And the world being a projection of yourself, that's an out-picturing of just how much you don't trust yourself. And that's why we talked about all that self-doubt, that you deserve love, perfection, happiness, and health right now. You got to change your mind about that this time, I mean, you don't have to. You can suffer. Everybody's free to suffer if they want to, but I don't recommend it. You've got great wisdom. You're a great channel for great wisdom. You're almost mediumistic. And you're going to find as you grow in life, you're going to find words will tumble out of your mouth that you haven't heard before that help a lot of people. And almost as a medium would do. I'm not talking about that you're going to have a spirit come into you or anything like that. I'm just going to see that you're going to look at these little forms, these little bodies that we have as channels for wisdom. And you're going to know that about yours as you grow. That's something you're going to accomplish as you go forward. You're kind of like a loudspeaker for God, in a sense. Now, I don't mean God in a religious way where you're going to be like Jesus Christ or anything like that. I just mean, you're speaking from Source and speaking in alignment with Source as you go forward. And that's going to help a lot of people remember to relax and not get crazy. But first you have to use it for your own help so that you relax and don't get crazy. And so that's the important thing always to remember. You get that right relationship with yourself first. Then you'll demonstrate that to others just by being it and carrying that vibration with you. You've got unusual and mystical talents and very philosophical. You really want to pay attention to balance this lifetime, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. But let your feelings be your guide. And we talked to you a little bit about that, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But your feelings are just telling you in this moment whether you're in alignment with the awareness and perfection of that you are, which reflects as love, peace, joy, kindness. and connection, or if you're thinking something is not connected, if you're taking yourself to be seriously separate from others and frustrated because of that, if you're really taking time and space into consideration as if they're real things instead of just made-up things that we've been taught to believe in since we were young. We understood about time when our parents first said to us, it's time to go to bed. Oh, okay, there's something that's called time. All right, so there's something there. Now I'm learning about time. And then they say, now go upstairs to your room and go to sleep. And then you realize, oh, there's space, because I'm not in the right space. There's another space upstairs, and I got to go there. See, a baby doesn't know any of that. We come in not knowing anything about time and space. We don't know that we're separate bodies. There's no awareness that's separate from any other awareness, It's all completely just one, and it's happening, and it's a beautiful dance of love. And we kind of get talked out of that. So we have to unwind that by trust, by faith. Now, you've got a lot to give. You're very original. You show courage when you're dealing with what looks like opposition in this world by being yourself. Not courage to fight other things or to argue or anything like that or get frustrated and demand to get your own way. But the kind of courage that gentles you down into understanding, okay, it's fine. None of this compromises who I am. And that is unbroken bliss consciousness as this awareness, And really to call forth that experience from deep within yourself so that you can shine it out to the world. That's the kind of courage you're meant to have. That's where the ultra wisdom comes from. When you get tired and you tire yourself out, then you can get overly anxious and critical, eccentric and practical. You start doing things in a demanding way of yourself and others in a rash way. And that, of course, is something that doesn't really help you. It doesn't help anybody else, But your goal is to discover the true mastership of life, and that's to be found in your giving of service to others. As you are a teacher, a humanitarian, a leader in public affairs, you're to work in the public sector, especially if possible in an advisory capacity. The other things that you're really learning, and we talked about this with kindness and connection, is to connect. Don't hold yourself back. You see, the thing is that something happened in the past, and we don't have to go into the specific lifetime. It takes too much time. It's easier just to say, something happened in the past where you decided you were safer to stay in your mind and not connect from the heart, because the heart can be broken. And it shuts you down. And so there's this sort of building yourself up into this intellectual thing where, okay, you can't touch me. You can't hurt me because I've got this intellectual idea of who I am, and I'm going to stay in that ivory tower. And that in itself is, that tower has to come down, You have to learn that what you're feeling, Austin, is that if people really knew who I am, they would hate me. So I'm not going to show any vulnerabilities. But what you have to learn this lifetime, through certain circumstances, is if I allow my vulnerabilities to show, if I'm really emoting with people, if I tell them how I really feel, they will not hate me. They will love me even more. That's what you're going to find out. That your vulnerabilities don't make you hateful. They make you human. And that people will love you even more because of them. Of course, we rise above our vulnerabilities and our limitations on a human level, but ultimately, we don't have to hide from those feelings of vulnerability. We can express them. It really makes a friendship deeper when you're sitting, If a friendship is just like two people and one is always the teacher and the other is always the student, that's not really a friendship. That's a teacher-student relationship. But if two friends come together and they can share their vulnerabilities with one another, that's a sense of intimacy, real intimacy. And that's one of the things that you're really here to achieve. Just that, being patient with yourself and others, being friendly, sharing the feelings with others, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, being cooperative. All that stuff is just aces for you. It brings you to the universality. Because you're a universal person, and in order to do that, as a human being, is you have to feel all the feelings. When you feel all the feelings, you become universal, because then you know what that person's feeling over there. I felt like that too. If you haven't felt the feelings, you're going to look at another person and not understand what they're feeling and feel separate. That doesn't lead to universality. So you have to really, your roster of feelings is what helps you to understand all of humanity. So it's very valuable that you do that. It can make you a really excellent actor as well, if you had decided to go that way. So when you're very positive, you are independent, not in a sense of being separate, but in a sense of the independence that the wholeness of awareness is. It doesn't need anything more. It's got everything complete and whole within itself. So when you're positive, you've got the independence of knowing that awareness is all things, and there's nothing more needed. And you're also, in a way, unconventional. You're built to be unconventional. You're built to be spirited in a way that makes breakthroughs for humanity and lift them in a higher aspect to knowing themselves. And you're very strong-willed. Now, that's like a match. It could be used to warm yourself through a winter night, or strong will, like a match, you could use it to burn down your house. So you got to use your willpower rightly. A lot of what happens that causes frustrations and loneliness and sadness is a misuse of willpower for you. It brings a lot of disappointments, frustrations, disillusionments, rejections, abandonment issues, deceptions, regret, all based on past experiences that really were just circumstances that you took to sort of curtail, demean, and close yourself into a limited pattern of those frustrations and disillusionments. We have to face them again and embrace them and let them come out of the system, out of the subconscious. Because none of that is true for you. Your circumstances have to be less important than your state of being, which is the awareness that's listening now. You see, when the circumstances become more important, then you demean yourself and encapsulate and close yourself into some kind of limited circumstance. And all these bounded, limited circumstances are just appearing in the wide open awareness that you are, and it's nothing but the dynamic energy of awareness. These waves are just an appearing part on top of the ocean of reality that you are. The sun that you are shines in these particular rays, but in no way does it countermand the fact that you're the sun. These clouds appear in the sky, these circumstances, but it doesn't threaten the sky. You have to remember that you are the sky-like open awareness, and not demean yourself by what an appearance looks like now. It just is an appearance like a cloud. It just props up in the sky, it abides for a while, then it disappears. But what is a cloud in the sky? It's just an appearance in the sky. It's never been anything other than sky. What's in front of you has never been anything other than awareness. And that awareness is perfect and whole, always, no matter what it looks like in each infinite moment. Now it looks like this, now it looks like this, now it looks like this, but it's still in this wholeness of awareness. It's still in what's looking, which is the awareness. This one eye in front of us, this circle of light in front of us that we all see, that's here whenever we're conscious. Whether it looks like we're in bed in the middle of the night, or talking on the phone to Dami, or driving our car, it's always in front of us in this one all-seeing eye. And it's the one all-seeing eye that's the aliveness that you are, that we should cherish and feel blessed by. The pictures that come and go in it don't matter. You can't do anything with them. They're like mist. You can't grab them and do anything with them. You can't take this moment here and put it in your pocket and pull it out later and say, it's real and here, we're back there. So it's all very ephemeral, but this one eye is always in front of us. It's to be friendly with it, not to find fault with it, to see it as perfection unfolding itself as it will. And allow it to do that like a flower unfolds. You know, when a flower unfolds, it doesn't say, oh, that damn petal to my left isn't coming out as far as that one on the right, and it's annoying the hell out of me. No, a flower just blooms as it does very naturally and very easily, and it doesn't, second guess whether it should be doing this or that. It just lets it all unfold. See, this diffuses that frustration that goes on in the mind, which is based on it's a pain that's based on some kind of thought that things should be other than what they are. And I assure you that's never the case. We think it is, and we drive ourselves crazy, but it never really in reality is the case if you really stop to look and see what you are cannot be compromised. And what's appearing is the perfect unfoldment of what you are. Now, I would say you're gonna really get what we're talking about sooner or later. I mean, you're kind of scheduled in the movie to wake up. One of the ways that you can wake up is facing this all-seeing eye in this moment in a certain way, and we all have different ways of facing it. Your best way of facing the moment, and I mean every moment, whenever, in every now, is you really accomplish in the moment by facing it through being open, imaginative, friendly, using your talents and sharing them with the world, being happy, intuitive, inspired. All your experiences should be met with optimism and kindness and a great sense of humor. This is what you're here for. You're really here to enjoy the experience of the human life. Just the joy of being alive, this one eternal moment that we're always in, is aliveness, and just to cherish it, no matter what the aliveness looks like. And of course, along with that, I would be remiss if I didn't say freedom from worry. Face the moment with freedom from worry. So that's your way of facing the moment. It's important that you remember that and come back to that, because when you're facing the moment with other than optimism and seeing it as a blessing, it means that you're mistaking the moment to be something that it's not. And of course we try to hold on to those old beliefs that cause us to be unhappy. God knows why, but we try very hard to shoot ourselves in the foot and describe things as being unhappy. But we have the power to redescribe things and really see things as they truly are. Your way of doing that is just approaching the moment with a loving, happy heart. And as you go on in this life, you're going to meet people and experiences that help you investigate and instigate fresh new ideas. You're all about the cutting edge. Your life is going to require independent decisions and actions that spark off long-term goals for the concerns of humanity, to betterment of humanity. And you're going to have that kind of courage that remembers who you are and shares with love. And that kind of self-assertion and self-reliance that allows you to walk your path, even though it may not be what other people's paths are, without warring against other people, but just by authentically being your own whole, happy self as you are, and doing what you know to be right in the moment by following your bliss within your heart. So you kind of have to be that pioneer, that creatively, teaches by example how to work with all the resources in the moment in a happy way so that everything becomes harmonized. Everything becomes happy again, where no fault is found. And that has to be done within yourself first before you can teach that to others. A marriage is favorable this lifetime, but you have to have somebody that's got their own life as well. A sort of independence is necessary with your marriage partner. She has to be doing her thing, you have to be doing your thing, and then you come together and share that. But no sense of codependency will ever work in a marriage. It usually doesn't work in a relationship in general, but for you specifically, it's not really a good thing to have a codependent partner. So remember that. Now, everybody has a direction in life, And your direction in life is very important, because if you listen to this part of your lifetime session, it will help you make choices in the future. Because choices really send us on trajectories, and our trajectory is our intention or our way of moving forward on our path. It's our direction. So let me tell you what your best choice for as a direction is in life in general, so that you can apply it to the specifics as it comes up within your life. You're to shy away from working only on personal glory and wealth. So anything that says, Leo, let's do this because it's going to make me a famous celebrity and I'll have power over other people. No. Yeah, and I don't really think you are that way anyway. I think you've learned lessons where you realize that that's not the way that you should go this lifetime. But just in case, my job is to tell you, which way that you should go and let you make your own choice. Anything that has to do with personal glory and wealth, it's not the direction for you. You're about human concerns and helping others. You're a giver, not a taker. But if you put your thoughts completely aside for your own, sort of sense of a personality or a sense of an individual person, which is of course fictitious, you'll work for the good of the many. And if you do that, anything can come your way, including personal glory and wealth. It won't mean much to you, but, still those things can happen when other people see what good you're doing. Like Mother Teresa, she didn't ask for personal glory and she didn't ask for any of that, but the world sort of honored her in a very big way. But she did that just by doing all the good she can in an authentic way, and you're that same way. You're a humanitarian. You're here to see everybody as your brothers and sisters, to keep the golden rule uppermost in your mind, to forgive others for what you've mistakenly thought that they have done to you, to recognize that, you made up the world in your mind, and you have to forget what you think the world means to a separate you, and see it as it really is, which is just a wonderful unfoldment of blessing after blessing and total perfection. You have to recognize this little life is but a dream, and upplay tremendous compassion and generosity and humility. This is how you achieve your best life. To know that you do not know. To know that you just don't know. That's what humility is. I don't know what's going to happen next, and I know that. What arrogance is I know exactly what should happen next, and God help everybody around me if it doesn't happen exactly that way. So to know that you don't know is really important. And that's, of course, when they traveled from Athens in the year 500 BC to the Oracle Delphi, they asked, who's the smartest person in Athens? And the Oracle Delphi said, Socrates. And they said, Socrates, are you kidding me? He is this dumpy guy that's standing on street corners, rabble-rousing the students, totally off his nut, and rolls his eyes at everything, and and he wasn't considered to be too smart. And the Oracle says he's the smartest person in Athens because he knows he does not know. So in that sense, you've got that kind of energy of Socrates in you, if you want to play upon that and work that muscle. But in the ways of helping other people, you enrich other people's lives. All that you touch through this loving, selfless service, and creative at that. So just in your direction, make yourself aware of beauty wherever you go, in people, places, things, thoughts, everything. Find the beauty in it. Find the yumminess of it, the perfection of it, just being just the way it is. And be led by the right-minded, intuitive heart. Not the head, that's always wanting more or thinking it's less. And learn to give love on a grand scale, expecting nothing in return. That's a hard one, because as we're taught to be human beings that are separate, it's hard to do for people, give service, and not expect a pat in the back sometimes. But this is part of that courage that I'm talking about, the courage to remember that you're already perfected. You don't need that pat on the back. You're just doing the best you can for people. And you are blessed by blessing others on all levels. And remember again, endings are graduations. They're not failures. So you're here about completions. Don't worry. When things complete, you move on to a next adventure. It means things are complete. You've learned what you needed to learn. One thing that you need to learn in this direction is that nothing can be possessed. Like we said, this moment, there's nothing in it that you can put in your pocket and keep. Clouds. Can you take a cloud and put it in a jug and bring it out into the sky later? That's what this is. These appearances are like clouds. It's the dynamic energy of awareness, which is constantly in flow, and really is your freedom if you allow it to just flow the way it is. If you try to fixate and hold things, if you try to hold on or hold back, that's sort of resisting the flow of the aliveness that's in front of us, and that's not a happy thing. So with patience and tolerance in your direction, you can demonstrate the good for many who will aid you along your way. So you do get a lot of support if you're in your right dharma, or walking the path as you should with all this love and selfless surrender and inventiveness and courage. Just asking little, giving much. Be what's needed in this moment. Hear what the moment requests of you and do your best to help. It's not always an easy vibe for the ego, because the ego always demands recognition and gets pissed off. The ego always asks for more and gets pissed off if it feels it's not getting it. The ego always wants to be right and gets pissed off if it feels it's being told it's not right. So when I ask you in your direction, you have to ask yourself, would I rather be right or would I rather be happy? Would I rather know the perfection that is and see life in that way and feel what a blessing it is, how awesome it is all the time, no matter what circumstances temporary look like? Or would I want to collapse into a life of frustration and problems and power struggles, etc., and basically demeaning myself? So you got to ask that question, and for you to choose happiness in every moment is like so remarkably rewarding for you, and helps you bring your gifts out to the moment. So remember that the giver is always the receiver as well. What you give to this world, since it's a projection of yourself, you're giving to yourself. So love yourself really well. And your loving service it actually determines your happiness now and in any future now. So you're finding yourself through knowing that life is a mirror, and it's not here to mirror an ego system of thinking that always wants to stay frustrated, that always wants you to seek and never find. It's a mirror that's supposed to reflect the joy of love in action that you really are. So, that's your direction. Just to give service, a happy service, selfless service, and to do all you can on all the good levels that you can for everybody. Now, there's a couple of challenges, of course. One is you really have to follow your bliss, respectively, of course. You don't want to do things that deliberately harm other people. In fact, that's one big thing for you. You have to remember, never do harm. Harm can happen, but never to intend to do harm. That's the important thing. And develop your willpower to know that it's not my will, but thy will. That's something greater than awareness. Awareness is what the moment is reflecting, and see what the moment is requesting as that awareness and share it. That's the right use of willpower. When you walk into the room, don't walk into the room with your own personal insistence of what you think should happen. Then the room is not a celebration. It's an ordeal that you have to contend with in order to get your way. But when you walk into the room with, no personal insistence, you're just in a celebration, just joining with a lot of happiness and joy. That's your best bet. So you have to be careful, though, too, because a lot of the times what you'll do is you'll do one of two things. One, you'll try to bend over backwards to please everybody and end up pleasing no one, not even yourself. And when you get tired of that, you go to the other end of the pendulum and you get pig-headed and stubborn and say, well, damn it, I'm not going to please anybody but my own self then from now on. Now that's the two ends of the extremes. I'm going to please only myself, to hell with everybody else, or let me see if I can be what other people want me to be and help them out, and be a martyr to their cause, and that way they'll like me, Neither one is really good. You want to be the divine thinker of your own thought. Someplace that, like the Buddha said, you want to take the middle path. Be the divine thinker of your own thought. Stay in your heart. Ask what's appropriate for you. Listen to everybody, and get the data, and, be open to others' opinions and whatnot. But when it comes to stepping forward on your path, do what's really in your heart makes you feel happiness, respectively so. That means not doing harm to other people while you're making that choice. So it's very important for you to know that, because you can live by trying to be an image for other people, but you won't authentically be yourself as that awareness. You'll just be another concept of who you think you are in a demeaned and limited way, and try to have to keep up that image for other people. And then maybe you're this image for this one person, and then you have to be this image for another person, and those two people walk into the room simultaneously. You don't know what hell image to project. So it's better just to be yourself in that sense, and be the divine thinker of your own thoughts, Be original, be authentic with yourself. Do what you know to be right for yourself. That's your way of going forward. And be patient, infinitely patient with people, infinitely patient. You never feel any better or worse than anybody. Certainly there will be people that are understanding what we're talking about, falling in line with their true nature of wholeness, and understanding that everything is unfolding perfectly. But there's going to be many, many, many people that don't understand that. And that's okay too. We're patient with everybody because we're patient with ourselves, which is what everybody is, a reflection of ourselves. So to have too little ego and become a martyr, too much ego and become this, intellectual, pompous guy that thinks he knows best and what should be right, neither one of those choices are right. Just be comfortable being nobody. Because that's who you are. You're not really any identity. You're the source of all things, that awareness. And that awareness reflects within itself. It's all of its joy. So there's no real identity anywhere. So the ego system of thinking really, it just is very overrated. And no one knows why, because it always makes you suffer. So to keep that in check is really good. And patiently allow yourself time to rise to the top, because you will. You're developing a lot of character, the qualities of patience and evenness, and the courage to know what you are, even though circumstances are demanding you to demean yourself in other ways, or demean others. This is an important thing, to keep that happy, loving heart, and ask what the present situation or circumstance is calling upon from me to do, and do it with that loving, kind service. And never get into that game where, you think you're a separate self that's either being dominating or dominated. It's just not who you are. You're just that awareness that doesn't care about, it doesn't even know that there's, anything other than itself to feel dominated by or to dominate. It just takes all of that off the table, and the heat's off, so to speak. That's one of the lessons, really, to be the divine thinker of your own thought, I think sums it up. Be authentically yourself as that awareness that's listening right now. The other challenge for you, we could say, is are you going to be superficial in this world, or are you going to rise above all the challenges and see the bigger picture and understand the depth of life? And to allow yourself to do that, you have to really look and see where power is. Power is the awareness that's listening now, because from that awareness everything comes. Nothing can happen outside of awareness. So everything is an expression of that awareness. How powerful is that? It's the extension. Every creation is an extension of that awareness that you are, that's listening right now. And that power is perfect, always, just as it is. Circumstances come and go within it, but the power of allowing all circumstances is truly creative and truly intelligent and truly infinite and truly the most powerful thing in the world. Not that it's a thing. But you're going to find that in this lifetime, that's your real power. There's no power in circumstances or in the world. Mostly there's force and manipulation, which passes for power. But your balance is to understand real power and to really be certain of the power of awareness. And once you're certain of the power of awareness from which everything extends, then there's nobody in the world that you'll feel intimidated by or overpowered by, or that you need to overpower or intimidate. Because you'll know what true power is, and you'll know it is what you are. So there's no push-pull about that. The other challenge is not to be too terribly concerned with material security. And I know we talked a little bit about that. You seem to be pretty balanced on that level. Again, seeing through the challenges, to see through the striving for more on any level. Because whenever you say, I need more, what you're saying is, I'm not enough now. And that's never the truth about yourself, So, the other thing they say is, there's a challenge from other lifetimes never to ignore the rights of others, or to be dishonest or unscrupulous in the attainment of your desires. And really cultivate human understanding. And we mentioned before that the human experience is feeling. The head tries to describe the human experience, but a description of a thing is not the thing. I was once with Alan once, and he held out a match to me, and he said, what is this? And I told him, well, it's this little skinny thing with a head of sulfur on top of it. He said, no, what is this? And I said, well, it's something that you can get in stores, and you need it, to light fires, and, when you're having your fireplace go. And he said, no, what is this? And finally I gave up, and he just struck it, and it flared up. And he said, that's what this is. So the thing itself is what it is. It's not a description of it. And what human understanding is to feel your life, not to describe your life. And for you to cultivate that human understanding, again, you have to feel your life. You're here to downplay greed. Otherwise, you'll find there'll be certain situations that might compromise your physical stamina. A lot of this challenge is a challenge for power which emanates from the stomach area. And the stomach and nerves and solar plexus can be weak if we don't understand the true power that we are as awareness. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to keep in mind, like that first challenge we talked about patience and being divine thinker of your own thought. If you don't learn that one, then sleep can become very difficult. We feel at that point challenged all the time, even to the point where we can't sleep. So the stomach and the idea of being able to be comfortable and sleeping, these are achieved by being patient with yourself, patient with others, being the divine thinker, original, sticking with what's blissful in your heart, knowing that you are the power that you've been seeking or that you feel is necessary. You already have it. And just to learn to rejoice in all the accomplishments that are taking place in front of us that we can join in with. And not to take too seriously our tremendous drive to reach the heights, because it's going to be there, but not to take it too seriously. Not to take too seriously our thought that I'm a powerful person and I have to prove that I'm powerful. Those thoughts can come up, but it's not who you are. You don't have to take them seriously. So we don't want to strain, in other words, with false values. Remember, the world is just a dream, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but if we take that dream too seriously, then we can really harm ourselves physically. You really do have the chance to be a self-made multimillionaire. So, if you use your creativity and work with right-mindedness in a kind and serviceful and loving way. So you don't have to worry about power as security in the world as money. It should come if you're walking your path rightly. Just remember about money. Money belongs to everybody, not just you. And there's no sense of loss if somebody else has more money or some situation where we might say envy or jealousy, which is one of the categories of the 5 poisons that we can hold in our mind. The Buddha said one is envy, one is jealousy. And whenever you catch yourself being envious or jealous of another person's position of who they have or what they have, realize that, that's something you really have come to work on and to see right through and see that it's not necessary to look at life in that way or to feel that way. Everybody is awareness. And what you have in this world within the dreams will be different, of course. Somebody will have more, somebody will have less, but it's still a dream. And what do they really have ultimately? All we really have is awareness. That's the only real thing about us. And if you're not in contact with what's real, you're a real treasure house of being, then, it doesn't matter what you dream or not, because dreams always come to an end. So, a lot of what goes on for you, though, is you're going to have materiality and money, and you're going to have to learn how to use it philanthropically. And that'll bring its whole other set of lessons that you'll have to learn in the future. But you have to cultivate a kind of constructive attitude towards true values of life and the right use of power and materiality. That's something you said, I want to learn how to do that. And remember that all real power belongs to the source, to awareness. Don't mix yourself up and think that power is anything in this world, in terms of a circumstance or forcing or manipulating. We need to maintain that balance of the body, mind, and soul by understanding we already are perfect. And within that perfection, this body, mind, and soul arises, and it's fine any way it looks, as long as we know what it really is. It's not separate from that perfection. So you have to use good sound reasoning and do your best always. Do it selflessly, and don't adhere to current socially delineated status symbols, ways, or means. Be comfortable with your body and with your world. A lot of times a guy like you, who's had a lot of extraterrestrial experiences, you'll come in and you just won't you'll feel real antsy, in your body, restless. And so you've got that. There's a way to overcome that, and that's by not relating to your body as all that you are, realizing that you're something greater called awareness. And it sort of mellows out the body in that respect. Let's talk about some fun things on a multidimensional level, because we think we're just this one body down here, most of us, but we're really everybody down here. Where there's the one I am that splits itself in all these factions, and that are us, so to speak. So we're really all over this third dimension. We are what we see. We open our eyes in the morning and spill out the entire universe on this dimension and all other dimensions. But we are really represented and have bodies on other levels of creation as well. So if you look at the stars as great universities of higher learning, you're on a star called Al-Naim. One important aspect of it, of you is on a star. And that's a star that really downloads to you the teaching and the learning that you really are a delightful being. Don't demean yourself. You are the light of the world. Anything in the world doesn't matter. What matters is the light behind it. And to see the light behind all circumstances is see the blessing of all circumstances. Another higher aspect of yourself brings in the balancing of the elements, water, earth, air, fire, and it helps you to maintain a calm disposition. Another higher aspect of yourself really downloads an understanding that you are a messenger of God, so to speak. I mean, not in a religious sense, but in a sense of understanding that you're going to be able to say what people really need to hear to bring them back to the truth. As far as the mineral kingdom, the second dimension, the emerald stone is a really good stone for you. It really aids in soothing the connection between your desires for earnestly knowing your true nature and the desires of the body. It balances those two. It brings them into balance. And a green agate stone is a good stone for you to wear. Emerald's pretty expensive. You might be able to, probably will be able to afford it at one time in the future, but until then, a green agate is a stone that's readily available. And if you wore a pendant over your heart of that, if you want to, you don't have to. This is just fun stuff. But it promotes health, and it leads you to a long life. As far as the flower kingdom is concerned, the gorse, Gorse, flower is the one that resonates with your vibration. Generally you can get along with everybody. Your astral color is red. That's the color of passion, power, excitement, strength. Violet in your environment gives you empathy towards others. And then what you wear, green is a power color for you. It allows you to feel very good and have the courage to face every moment with the awareness that you are. And as far as the trees are concerned, in the tree kingdom, the walnut tree is the one that favors your vibration. And the walnut tree is known to be unusually helpful, always looking for constant changes in life. It has that little bit of restlessness, but it is rooted in the ground ultimately. And as far as classical composers of classical music, Bohem, B-O-H-M, played music to the keynote of your soul. As far as the bird kingdom, the bird of paradise is your bird. That's called the bird of the gods. And it just simply means that you'll shine with extraordinary love in all circumstances. And as far as your symbol is concerned, the crown, like a king would wear a crown on his head, that's your symbol. It's this universal sign of dignity. As far as health sense, how you can go to the health food store and buy a little oil that has a flavor, the scent of strawberry or something. Strawberry is your scent. It really soothes you down when you're feeling really all, bad about yourself. It promotes self-esteem, and it encourages love when you're feeling, very restless and wanting to do something rash. So the scent of strawberry is good for you. You're very fiery and determined, and generally quick in your actions. And that has to do with the right or wrong use of willpower. So if you will know the truth about your awareness, and this is all our 24/7 of the dynamic energy of that awareness, so there's nothing that's not perfect, then you'll be using your willpower rightly to really come into alignment with your true nature. But if you get all caught in circumstances, in that fieriness, that determinedness, and that quick actions, those rash actions, you get you into all kinds of trouble, So, just a word to the wise there. An open door policy to all possibilities only enhances your life. Be aware that your power and passion can intimidate others. So, kind of be careful, because you do get very intense, and people sort of get very intimidated. So be gentler with people and kinder to people, and intend not to intimidate them when you get all worked up. You do have that iron will, so you have to use that wisely. Use your iron will to laugh at obstacles before and after you overcome them, Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about relationships, because it is important for you. You're really learning through relationships in many ways this lifetime. But Austin, you do have this pattern where you think you need to control the lives of people you love. Okay? It doesn't matter where you got it, but in one lifetime you just developed that inclination that if I love you, then I have to control you. And that control can come from many areas. I have to control you in the way to keep you loving me, or have to control you in the way that you have to do everything that I think is good, otherwise I won't love you, or that I have to do everything that you think is good, otherwise you won't love me. So it's a control in that sense. That, of course, causes a lot of problems with your partner, a lot of problems with family members, and, it causes a lot of friction in the home. So it's just a control issue with those you love, And of course, as awareness, you don't need to control anything, because it's all unfolding just as it is. Only when we think and take ourselves to be less than what we are do we get into power and domination and dominating and control issues. So we're forgetting ourselves. So we have to be easier with our relationship, and we start by being easier with ourselves. But family is really a primary focus in your life. You'll always like to have a family, You always like to have a circle of friends. And why not? That's fine. But you have to understand that, control has nothing to do with that. A lot of it, as I said, is sometimes you're afraid to make real deep, intimate connections because it means that you have to sort of show yourself to be vulnerable, and you feel people won't like you if you do that. But I'm going to tell you, what you're going to learn is they're going to love you for that. They're going to see you as a highly developed human being that shines its light beyond the emotions and frailties and foibles that human beings possess. You occasionally get very, very lucky. You have like lucky streaks in your life. And because of that, you need to keep your wits about you. And that way you can further get benefits from the luck. It seems like luck comes your way and you'll go on a lucky streak. Just make sure you're aware of what's going on around you. That's an important thing for you. All right, now we're going to go a little deeper into the records. And we're going to talk about the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory, of course, is that everything got, spilled out into creation, or all of the creations all at once. And kind of it did happen like that, if you want to say the creation happened at all, which it really didn't, ultimately. If you go to the back end of the book of learning, you'll see that none of this ever took place. But if we're going to talk about creation at all, we could talk about the Big Bang. You came out on a level called a dharma. And that level of a dharma is where you spilled out into creation on all these levels that we were just talking about. And creation always happens now. All of it, past, present, and future, all happening now. So you're converse all around on all levels of creation. You're symbolized as some body, mind, organism, or non-organism. And you came out on that level where you were teaching and learning that it's very important to be true to your role in the game of the life that you're consciously living. What that means on this planet is that you have to really follow your bliss. Explore the themes of life that you really needed and wanted and came down to explore, which is about giving service with originality and inventiveness and creativity and bringing down messages from the higher, and helping out humanity in that sense. Facing all the emotions, understanding the human emotions, and being able to calm down the human emotions for yourself and others, and to have faith in yourself as you're going along, not to have a kind of blind faith, but the real faith in the truth of the awareness that you are. And that way you walk your path. And so you're teaching and learning about this throughout all these lifetimes that are happening all at once. And in this lifetime, you're learning not to work contrary to the laws of existence, not to be up all night and sleep during the day, to go with the way things are working here. That's called dharma, walking in the path of balance. To be adharmic is to, do things backwards, to hold tension and not release it. That's adharmic. To allow yourself to understand that who you are is a natural phenomena, like a flower growing on the earth. And if it follows the natural cycles of rain and sunshine and all of that, it surely will grow. And not to resist that, not to get into the imbalances, becoming too overly active or too inert and lazy. To allow yourself to pay attention to being a happy server on life. This avoids a lot of self-destruction. Because anything that's adharmic is self-destruction. So basically what you're teaching in all these lives, and this one too, and learning about is not to be self-destructive. There's a danger of getting caught in the fourth chakra, the chakra of the heart. Just when it's about to open, we sort of put a nail in our coffin, or we shoot ourselves in the foot, and we get adharmic. We get afraid of that wholeness that we feel is there if we open our heart. If we become too vulnerable to receive the truth of perfection about ourselves, then we go off and we, do something adharmic outside of the laws of nature. So it's about following the laws of nature, which is not compromising in terms of being true to yourself, because you are an expression of the laws of nature, So it's okay to go along with what is harmonious, and to follow that innermost vibration of what's harmonious. The resistance in the mind is a different thing. We have to stay into the heart and open up to what's truly peaceful and pleasant and reasonable and cooperative and loving in the moment. Never let any thought in your mind cause you to create disharmony with what you're seeing in front of yourself. Because those thoughts aren't real. They're just thoughts, they come and go. If you make an ego out of a bunch of those thoughts and beliefs and concepts, and it causes you to be feeling separate from what's right in front of you, which is really the rest of yourself, and it causes you to be unloving with what's right in front of you, then you've once again built yourself into this ivory tower of thoughts and beliefs that are limiting, that cause you to feel separate and rejected and abandoned and all of that stuff. And all of that has to come down as we go into the heart, into that simple, causeless joy, and let your faith be in going into that heart and opening up. That way you come back to the Dharma. But of course, we can only learn about the Dharma, or the right way of living our life, by looking and seeing, what we might be doing in our life that's causing us not to follow the natural laws of creation, which is always being harmonious, connected, and kind to ourselves and to others. So you've come down here to teach people to be balanced and to understand the value of being balanced within your own self. So we did talk about quite a lot the idea of perfection. And how do we learn perfection? We see and finally figure out what's imperfect. Okay? So what's imperfect is our thoughts. Especially when we're thinking that this in front of me should look this way instead of that way. That's imperfect thinking. It always leads to feeling bad. It always gets you into this imaginary obsession to do something because things are not right. Because I need more. Because I'm not enough. So that's what imperfect is. And when you can see that, when Austin finally gets that, and oh yeah, I've been doing that, then he comes back into perfection. Because he doesn't have to go on a rampage to do that anymore. He can be all right where he is. And that's a really important place to be. We could say metaphorically, before you come down here, you pass the board of the Lords of Karma. And you get to ask them for any lesson that you want to learn particularly. Now, you ask for one kind of little lesson and one huge big lesson. We're going to talk about the huge big lesson first. You said you wanted to learn, above all, in this lifetime, that you are a whole human being. You're a whole being, basically, that's having a human life. And they said, are you sure you want to take that one? Because that's a big karma. That's a big lesson to learn. And you said, yeah. I want to know that nothing is appearing as everything, so I don't get too caught up and frustrated with things. I want to use my will to choose to remain pure and whole, and not be divided by all these stories of what I think things should be or how they should look and things like that. I don't want to separate anything from the awareness that I'm listening with now. I want to know that awareness is inseparable. Nothing can be separated inside of it. Nothing has ever been separated outside of it. It's the ground zero of all things, and that's what I am. And I want to rise above the personal battleground of points of view that make me think differently than that. So I want to go basically from being a personal, separate individual to a universal whole being. And they said, are you sure you want to do that? Because that's a tough one. And Austin said, I have the courage to do that in my heart. Okay? So What you want to drop is any insistence on being separate and special, by either being an egomaniac or a wimp. You want to help all you can and don't expect anything in return. You want to allow yourself to express your talents in a way that you feel like they will emanate from you, whether they're heard or not. So there's no difficulty in any of that. You want to let go of any guilt that may be holding you back. I want to understand that freedom is becoming familiar, confident, and committed to the awareness that's listening now. And you don't want to confuse independence with personal self-centered ambitions. To achieve an ambition in a dream is not to find the wholeness that you're looking for. The wholeness that you're looking for is by waking up from the dream. Knowing that you're the dreamer, not the dream. So you're learning independence through the proper use of power, and especially willpower. And you're going to be forced time and again this lifetime, because this is what you've asked for, to stand up for yourself. That doesn't mean to fight and put your fists up. It means to authentically go into your heart and do what you know to be right for yourself. We're in a world where many, many people aren't doing that. They're living on the superficial images of who they think they are and pushing and pulling against one another because of that. So you're going to face what could be considered circumstantial difficulties, but because you're able to rise above circumstances, these personal struggles will turn into universal solutions. One of the lessons is not to stubbornly resist help. And so, by you coming to me and getting a reading, I can see that you're really overcoming any of that. A lot of your sense of loneliness is self-imposed, because of past limited belief systems that you picked up. Feeling that, I'm safer if I'm sort of insulated from other people, especially on a feeling level. And part of it is just you just don't damn want to listen to other people. In a sense that works for you because you have to listen to yourself, but in another sense, people, they only want to know two things from you ever. Do you love me and do you hear me? So out of kindness and out of love for ourselves, which they're an extension of, we listen to them and we love them, no matter where they are, whatever they're saying. That's a very important thing. So that's an important thing. Listening to everybody and then informing yourself within your own heart what your divine opinion is and which way you want to go. And that solves a lot of problems, really. And also when we have that thought, I don't want to listen to you, and don't tell me, and stuff like that, which we get a lot with our parents and stuff like that. Again, work that value in such a way that you realize that, it's okay, I can listen to what everybody says. It's all right, no skin off my back, but I got to make up my own mind, as does everybody else, And use that pattern, I don't want to listen to you in that way. You say, turn it into, I'll listen to you, but then I have to, I'm very sorry, but I have to do what I feel is right in my heart. Otherwise, when you go, I don't want to listen to you, and you push other people off, you only further increase the false sense of separation from others. And you don't see them as an extension of yourself. You see them as somebody to contend with that's outside of yourself that might be considered an enemy. And this is kind of a self-imposed trap that our mind, our ego, sort of leads us to believe is true. So let's keep that interdependence with people in the sense that in this situation we're all working together, but keep the independence to know that, and I also have the right to go into my heart, do what I know to be right, respectively, for myself. And that way you stand on your own 2 feet. And, you understand that no man is an island, but at the same time, that you need to dream the dream that you were created to dream and explore the things that you needed to explore. And you can fully participate in life and regenerate with that childlike innocence. So these things are very important for you. I'm going to stop this file and then start another file here. Okay, now we're starting the second file. So it's about coming back to that childlike innocence. Watching the childish mind, like any good parent would, with a lot of love and forgiveness. Like the mother or the father doesn't look at the child just because it did something wrong and say, I hate that child, I'm going to kill it. We can't look at our little characters, with all its childishness that's built into it, and not forgive it and not love it thoroughly. Part of growing out of the ego is to really love the foibles and the weaknesses of the ego and say, oh, that's just being human. And it's okay because I'm something greater as well. And that's the wisdom that regenerates that personality. And you just start bursting loose in unity. Everything is included within you. And you understand it's all you. And you're devoted to yourself. You trust yourself. You value the wholeness you always are. You release the fear of loneliness and the fear of success. And you truly become an illumined being and help to express that illumination to other people so they also, contagiously energize that part of themselves that's completely free. And it also brings you back to good health, which is really important for you in terms of balancing physically, So, you don't ever want to misuse power. And misuse power means you're forcing or manipulating something, trying to change the circumstance. The right use of power is to understand that everything is unfolding as it is beautifully. And if I can show up and shine and situations can get improved, that's great. And let that happen also. But it's still already everything is just perfect as it is. So this is the kind of attitude that you ask the Lord of Karma, that you said, I really want to learn the wholeness, that everything already is perfect just as it is. And I want to rise above everything that thinks it's not. They said, okay, there you go. So then you came down. And they said, by the way, we want to give you a core lesson in life. And you said, oh yeah, what's that? I said, since you want to know wholeness, then we're going to give you an issue that you have to deal with. Without having learned this issue in this lesson, you'll never learn anything else. And he said, well, what's that? He said, you want to know who you really are, what your true nature is. You want to look and see that you're not the ego that tears your life into pieces, but you are the spirit of awareness, which is completely whole and in peace. So what we're going to make you look at is issues of low self-esteem, and we're going to make you look at times when you're going to think yourself as arrogant or bullying, and we're going to look at times where you're going to make yourself think that you're timid, and the ego's going to really want to whip you around, thinking you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then it's going to turn around and make you think that you're lower than a worm in the garden, Because if you see those two things, what you're not, then you have a better understanding of letting that go and knowing what you truly are, which is the awareness that's always whole. So in this way you can stand on your own 2 feet from what you really are as that true nature. But we're going to give you courage and we're going to give you faith to really find out who you truly are, that awareness. And so one of the ways you're going to learn about that is from stop trying to be an image for other people so that you feel that you can be loved and liked. And stop trying to have power issues with authority and the way things are and just doing things in a way of just resistance. You're going to have to look at that part of yourself that wants to resist. Look at that part of yourself that wants to try to fit in and be loved by playing the game, so to speak, or being what other people want. And see that you're none of that. You're not those things anyway. You don't have power issues and struggles. And you don't have image problems either. You have to look and see how those things can be there, but they're not who you are. That way you get centered, confident, innovative. You're a paradigm shifter, a leader, an explorer. That's really what you are. And you need to know that about yourself. You need to know how innovative you are. How you have to learn to listen to your heart, which knows the difference between enjoying the infinite abundance of the universe and on the opposite side, forcefully taking what you want. The idea of forcefully needing to get what you want is so against your true nature because you've been given everything already. You just have to sort of realize that there it is in front of you and not imagine that it's not. So it's about balance of self-esteem. Let go of the ego-based desire to control situations and people. You'll find that your internal guidance system in the heart works perfectly, attracts what you want when you want it. So that's your core lesson. And it's a good core lesson, really. Now, everybody has an initiation path. And your initiation path is called the path of resplendent intelligence and the light around the throne of God. It gives you self-confidence. And when I say self-confidence, I mean confidence in your true nature, in that awareness that's listening now. And it also brings gifts once you start to have that understanding of the wholeness you already are. A gift of prophecy. It always brings you an understanding of freedom through always giving you new beginnings. And this is good. That's why I say it's about completions, because you can't have a new beginning unless you have a completion. So don't worry about that. You're investigating higher natural laws, and you're attaining the ninth sphere. And that's the sphere of universality. So the positive and the negative have to be brought into balance. You have to see everything that represents hell as heaven. And then you have to let go of heaven and know that both positive and negative, both heaven and hell, when they're in balance, brings you to your true nature where awareness is all there is, and there's no need to name it good or bad, up or down, heaven or hell. So you're here bringing a lot of wisdom and a lot of love and a lot of the higher self. And you're here to share a lot of that love with the people. And the way you're doing that is you're kind of floating. Who you really are is floating. The awareness is floating in and amongst the combined opposites, where it harmonizes those combined opposites, where you see there is nothing opposite anything else. Everything is more or less complementary of everything else, not the opposite of everything else. So there's no real choices to be made. Everything can be flowed with easily, because if nothing's good or bad, or high or low, or up or down, if those opposites are complementary and not contrastive, I shouldn't say contrastive, because they do look contrastive, but not in competition with one another, or contradictory of one another. You'll see there are no contradictions in life. Everything is everything, and that it's all nothing arising as everything on the basis of an appearance within awareness as a reflection that really isn't there. It looks there. Life looks real. We can look around our room now and see all these things, and they look real, but we can't keep them forever. They're temporary, so they're not lasting. And what doesn't last is an illusion, you see. So we don't get fooled on that level. But in this initiation path, you're the hand of God. You've come to help. You've come not to criticize, but to seek that wisdom within your own self, which is where your true power lies, and share it with others. Okay. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I am, man. Yeah,
okay.
Loving it.
Because I just got a couple of beeps, so it's somebody else calling, so I'm going to just ignore it. Okay. So you're here for wisdom, for understanding, for mercy, to find the strength of what you truly are, your true power, to find the beauty of what's happening in front of you, and this is going to be finding the kingdom of heaven within inside of you. Here's the important thing on this initiation path. Want only what is true, want only what is just, want only what is within, and keep silent as to your designs. In other words, all this fabrication in the mind of what I want to get, what I want to do, and all of that. Keep that silent. Add a little perseverance. In other words, don't get frustrated and give up. And one day you will possess the key to real power, which is the awareness that's listening right now. It will not be in the back of your mind, but it will come forward, and all the things that are now forward in your mind just become a discussion off to the side, which you're not really interested in anymore. So you're able to see life's perpetual motion from the motionless, unmovable mover called your own true nature awareness. And you're able to immediately cut away evil and dispassionately and objectively handle changes in the relative existence in the flow of freedom, and you actually are able this lifetime to whirl off the wheel of birth and death and be your true nature. The way not to handle your initiation path properly is to become selfish, self-important. The way to handle it wisely is to remain with truth in your heart, justice in your heart, righteousness in relationship to yourself. Do what you know to be right in your heart in a kind and loving way. You're a very strong personality, and you can become very eloquent, and you have the potential to realize true freedom, and you have the potential to understand the mysteries of life. You can come to the light of true understanding, and that will rise you to great heights. A couple of things. You have to really marry very carefully if you decide to get married, because I talked about the friction that can happen, the imbalance that can happen because of that tendency to want to control those that you love. So be very careful. Get a compatibility reading through me or somebody else that you trust when you really are considering getting married. It's very important to do that. The other thing is must downplay any lust for money, power, or sex, and because that also can throw you out of balance. So the mind has to be inspired from the heart knowingness, and that spiritual inspiration is from within. There is on this initiation path, sometimes the character, Austin, becomes unclear in decision making. It's usually due to vagueness of conditions. You're just not certain whether to do this or that because things haven't fallen into place yet or something. That will happen circumstantially from time to time. Now that's just an appearance in awareness. And it doesn't mean you've lost your way at all, or you need to be afraid of that or anything. It's just an appearance of confusion in the moment. It's okay to have the appearance of confusion. If you're watching that confusion, you're not the confused one, because you're outside of it watching it. So just remember that. Also remember this too, Austin. You can be emotionally sparked into wrong choices due to your surroundings and others around you, and that leads to disappointments in the physical. So be very careful to listen to whatever people are saying, but then go and get away, be in your heart and say, but is this right for me? You know what I mean? Choose for yourself what your life trajectory will be. Don't let others choose it for you. Make sure it makes you feel happy and whole and like you're serving in the way that you'd like to. Otherwise, your deep and strong emotional nature will be discombobulated. You just won't feel like you're acting rightly or being dharmic. You're going against your own true nature, grain. But you have great spiritual strength. Sometimes you're going to find, by way of creating intimate friends, that there's a disappointment in friendship. And I want to tell you, don't hold that against yourself. Instead, within your friendships, develop a sort of leniency, a sort of feeling of allowing them to be human. Because human beings can disappoint other human beings. It's nothing to be taken too seriously. The only thing we should do is look and see, well, what was my expectation of them? And did I need to hold that expectation? If I'm holding somebody bondage to my expectation of them, and they have to live up to an image that I feel that they should display for me, isn't that the same thing in the same issue of me trying to hold an image for somebody else so that they can love me? We try to hold each other hostage to the image we behold of them, and as soon as they don't, live up to what our expectations are, we get very disappointed with them. So we have to remember that when our friends disappoint us, we have to look and say, okay, what did I imagine they had to be? And was that really fair and honest of me to feel that they had to live up to the image that I had of them? It was my mistake for putting an image on them to begin with. Why didn't I just let them be free? And since they're a reflection of my own self, why don't I, by the way, also let myself be free and not have an image and not have any expectations and not judge myself and criticize myself? See, so Any disappointment in a relationship or friendship is a great opportunity to do that kind of serious self-inquiry and realize, I did it again. I put an expectation on reality. I decided it needed to be this way, and God was not doing it right. Again. Damn it. So this is the kind of cooperation you have to have with yourself and others, and it really puts you in a place where you channel the creative energies beautifully in demonstration for others. Remember, if you're ever seeing a contradiction, look again, because there's another way of seeing it. Everything is complementary. Everything's a way to discover something new and freer and less judgmental and less expecting about yourself. Everything is an opportunity to let go of some expected hope or some past fear. And this brings you good fortune and future prosperity. And you should have that. And you should at one point get involved with the public. Deal with the public in some way. Again, beware of impatience. It just means you're too stuck in time. Impatience means not enough is happening now, or it has something to do with time. Because time is limited, so it causes us to be impatient. In timelessness, there's no such thing as impatience. Everything just unfolds as it is. So be real careful not to get caught thinking that you're right about time and it's making you impatient. That's like saying, I want to be right about being wrong and suffering. It doesn't make sense. Drop the idea of time in that sense. Whenever you feel like you're being impatient. And it avoids a lot of misunderstandings. Don't withhold from being with people fully. Shine your light. Be full on. Don't hold back and don't hold on. That's the thing in this moment. Don't hold back from the moment. Be fully enjoying the moment, and don't hold on to it. Let it go when it wants to go. Don't withhold due to fear of rejection, or get angry when you feel like you're being misunderstood. That's a big one. It causes frustration. Communicate better. So that you avoid misunderstanding. And of course, be the divine thinker of your own thought. Don't bend over backwards trying to please other people, or be pig-headed and stubborn. Like I say, get all the data, listen to people, then make your own mind up. And when in relationships, neither be too forceful or too submissive, neither be too bossy or too accommodating. And if you do come into a place where you can rule or manage, do it with compassion and gentleness. Don't let the ego problems hold you back from your true self. You have a great deal of consciousness and wisdom to draw upon. You have to bring it to the front of your mind rather than be too confused about the circumstances of your life, which are always ephemeral and passing like a dream. So, how you think becomes very important. The records say you will be secure in your old age, and you'll be a philanthropist and a humanitarian. You'll help other people be secure also. And they do, once again, recommend, please don't let material concerns cause anxieties or unhappiness. Your greatest treasure lies within your own self. Bring it out and share it and shine it, and, all will be well. All will be well. One other thing they wanted to talk about, because your main one, karma, with the Lords of Karma was saying, let me be whole, let me know the wholeness. Now the minor one I talked about, I want to talk about now. It really is about lacking a commitment to knowing your true self. And that reflects in the world of lacking commitment in relationship to people, yourself, and others. And it causes a sort of sense of irresponsibility. So responsibility to be yourself, I would say, is this karmic lesson. Take responsibility to always remember who you are and not get lost in what you're not and cause yourself problems. With relationships, how this reflects is it really makes it hard to make a commitment in a relationship. And again, we've talked about this before. It's about being more open with your emotions, not being afraid to be seen as human. which cause, and not thinking people won't like you if you're being yourself with them, if you're being authentic and honest with them. So what happens in this karmic lesson, the tendency is if it's not learned, you feel very lonely and isolated, and you really don't have any reason for this, this kind of feeling. The feeling is okay, because we want to know what it feels like to be lonely and isolated, so if we see somebody feeling that way, we have compassion for them, and it enriches what we know about human nature. But we don't have to identify with those feelings of aloneness and isolation. They're not really true. When we were a baby, it wasn't true. We learned those things, and we mislearned in that sense. So the reason for this kind of feeling at all is that, strong bonds with the person can be had, but with a person that feels abandoned and lonely and has issues of deprivation and these things, kind of frustrations that we talked about before, when we're forming a strong bond, we also hold a little bit of ourselves back. We guard a bit of ourselves, and hold that back from the other person. That gets felt, and it makes us hard to show affection towards other people fully in an authentic way, because we're always sort of keeping something to ourselves. Also, the thing about this karmic lesson is we tend to take relationships for granted, and they turn into superficialities, and we never bother to get them deep. You're supposed to have a deep relationships with everybody, intimate relationship with everybody. The most intimate relationship you can have with anybody is to see that they're just an extension of yourself and no difference. That's very intimate. That's closer than close. And that's really, cosmically, what you're supposed to do this lifetime, to see everything as the rest of yourself. That's very intimate. But in a third-dimensional level, it looks like backing off of commitments and relationships, and that's usually because you're holding a little bit of yourself back, not putting your heart on the line, and not taking the relationship seriously. So, I think the greater lesson is to realize that you're always talking to yourself, being with yourself, relating with yourself. It's your number one relationship, and to see this, what we consider the outside, as an extension of ourselves. We learn to be kinder and more loving to ourselves. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, like I said. Friends are very important. There's an interdependence that needs to be honored, and we can still maintain our independence of doing what we know to be right within our heart at the same time. So we learn to give in a relationship and to relate to others and in teamwork and making decisions together. Sometimes, I hate to say the word sacrifice, and I don't mean to say that word, but to coordinate, to cosmically, harmoniously coordinate with other people is an important challenge, in this karmic lesson. It's not that you're sacrificing for another person, but it's you're allowing for that aspect of yourself the other person represents to also feel comfortable. So that's an important thing too. Okay, we're coming to the time where I'm not going to be talking anymore. I know I've over-talked already, but I do have a few more things to say that could be important for you in this life reading. Your path it's a very kind of electrified path. It's like your nervous system is an electric rod for higher knowledge. And you're a source of inspiration and illumination for other people. You have an inordinate amount of intuition. There's a lot going on in your psyche. I mean, probably when you're a little kid, the people around you misunderstood you tremendously. And that could have made you feel kind of shy and withdrawn. And, just because you felt, when people are misunderstanding you, they tend to, it tends to be hurtful. So you kind of withdraw. A lot of that stuff happened for you, But you are a force to be reckoned with, in terms of, a cosmic light being. You galvanize every situation you enter. You inspire people without even consciously thinking of it. This energy kind of flows through you without your needing to control it. It gives you both, a sense of power as your authentic self, but it also can sometimes cause the emotions to go wild and be in turmoil. You really are a channel for information between the higher and the lower realms, and between the realm of the archetype of the relative world and the higher world, heaven and earth. And I mean you particularly. That's not everybody's case. So ideas, thoughts, understandings, and insights, all of these can come to you without your having to go through a rational thought process. And there seems to be a bridge, a connection between your conscious and your unconscious mind, which, having given you the QHHT, I see that, there's a very close connection. Your higher self comes through very easily for you. You can attune to that higher level of intuition, even and bring in the psychic inflow of data. All of this amounts to a great capacity for invention, in my opinion. Inventor, artist, leader, prophet, because the gift of prophecy is there. All of that's prominent for you and makes you very highly charged. And so you experience the consequences of that two-edged sword. You possess a great ability, but indulge in a lot of self-reflection and self-criticism. You often feel highly self-conscious. You're aware on some level that you do stand out. Even when you try to blend with your environment, sometimes you feel still conspicuous, alien, out of place. It's hard for you to feel at home. A lot of that has to do with the ET lives and stuff. And great remembrance of those experiences, and a great fondness for the connectivity that was had in those experiences. But I want you to know you are blessed with a message for this world, and you have a specific role to play in it. And just please develop yourself sufficiently to take full advantage of that opportunity. And, until that time, your inner development takes precedence over your ability to materialize the great undertaking that you were chosen to perform. You're going to feel like you're developing slowly, but remember, that's okay too. You just simply have a lot more to accomplish in this evolution than the average person. Your real success doesn't usually begin until about maturity, so about 35, 45. That's when things get you fall into your niche. Doesn't mean through an earnestness that it can't happen sooner, but generally it's about 35, 45. You start to come into a greater sense of the reality of what you are. I would say 35 to 43, you really come into the, just being in great understanding of a lot of your capacities and your cities and your powers and your gifts for humanity and inventiveness. Energy through the air comes to mind during that period for you. See, now, the thing why I'm saying this is because I want you not to get crazy or get too despondent about the frustrations that you go through right now. First of all, you have very high expectations of yourself, and you don't need to have any expectation of yourself. The movie is already done, and you've already completed it satisfactorily. Just walk step by step and enjoy every scene. Don't let your expectations about yourself be unrealistic. Just be calm, be in the moment, show up and shine, and enjoy everything with a happy flavor. Otherwise, if you get too frustrated, you get very impractical. You'll and when I say impractical, it's like you almost put the cart in front of the horse. You envision a skyscraper when all that's necessary is just a 2-story house. Again, I wanted to tell you about the bouts of confusion and the feelings of lack of direction. Don't worry about that. The movie of your life is planned out perfectly. It's like you can't make a mistake. And really trust in that. Have faith in that. Confusion is just confusion. You watch that confusion. It's a point of view that's coming up in your mind. You don't have to collapse into it and say, that's who I am. Okay, confusion's going on now. So what? You know, it's all working out perfectly as it is. That's the best attitude. You know, because if you allow yourself to identify with the confusion, it gives rise to a loss of confidence, and that is an onset to deep depression. And you don't need to mistake yourself into falling into deep depression. You know, the cause of emotional problems is really a lack of understanding of your own sensitivity and potential. You know, your desire to achieve some great ambition is enormous, you know, but a lack of confidence is there from past samsaras or limited beliefs. Lack of confidence in your own ability to realize, you know, and this accomplishment, it causes a lot of the frustration. You don't have to have that story about yourself. Just be in the moment. Do what's serviceable, and have fun and enjoy. Laugh, love, share, invent. You know, no need to think I need to accomplish this thing or that thing, or, you know what, you will actually do it, but you'll do it more easily and with less frustration if you let the story go and just let it unfold. So, strictly on a physical level, you really do have to protect your nervous system. It's inordinately vulnerable to stress because of your acute sensitivity. And, of course, that also gives rise to the depression. And that depression is just long periods of stress finally catching up with you, you know, because you haven't relieved it. So seek out peaceful and harmonious environments, relaxing music, follow a healthy diet, restore balance and peace. Your nervous system will cool out. Do a lot of B vitamins. That helps the nervous system. Be extremely diplomatic and tactful, patient and cooperative. Work with groups. Enjoy music, poetry. Anything that has to do with balance and rhythm is wonderful. You know, get what you need. You have healing abilities, you know. And as you heal others, you'll heal yourself. And, you know, anything with massage, physical therapy, counseling, you're good with those things. You're good with helping other people and reaching out and touching other people's souls and healing them. So that's part of your gift. And once you find your niche in life, you'll begin to realize your true potential. And it's on its way. You're really learning how to be in this world till about age 34. And from 35 to 43, all the gifts that you have and the niche that you've been waiting to fall into really comes into practical view. So life gets a little bit better at about 35 onwards. But it's not that it's bad now. It's just that you're kind of being in probation, you know, to see if you're going to be able to handle energies without getting into all this frustration and rash action. Because you do have a gift to be a leader, and it's important for the leaders to follow themselves with gentle, broad strokes and not get too overly hung up about this or that in the world. Remember, you are unconventional. You are a person that is extremely ambitious, and you need to know yourself so that that trajectory of that talent can be channeled in a way that it's bringing your light out to the world, which is what your true pioneering spirit wanted to do. That's why people come down to help, and you're one of the waves that's come down to help. And don't forget that, you know. And you're helping just by breathing and living on the planet. It doesn't have to be that you have to do anything. You just bring that help with you. The only thing you can do against yourself to stop that help from coming through you is to be stubborn and rigid and frustrated, you know, and make a big problem out of every circumstance and get highly emotionally charged and act out with tantrums, you know. That's going to happen unless you look at it and say, you know what? It doesn't help. It doesn't help for me to collapse into these ways and means. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help anybody else. You know. So when you learn to use your talents wisely and your sensitivity wisely, it won't combust on you, for personal frustration or at other people from that personal frustration. you'll lead because you'll be a person worth following. Really, you'll be self-reliant and confident and a front runner on the cutting edge, really looking to, voice what it is you know from the higher realms in terms of helping people understand the better way. Now, pride can be your downfall, so be very careful about that. The ego gets in the back door with pride and says, aren't I very special because look at what I can do? Well, who you really are has nothing to do with what you do. Not at all. Who you are is separate from anything that you can see, hear, touch, taste, smell, or feel confident about or feel proud of. It's beyond the world of the senses. And that's that awareness. So, pride in the sense of, too much ego about what you're doing, or the opposite of pride, which is lack of self-esteem, which is too much ego about what you think how you think you're falling short, is not a good thing at all. Majorly, you're here to be efficient and even and balanced on all levels, and to organize and help through that organization bring light out into the world. And that's really what your heart wants to do. You're a visionary. Just keep your vision practical. Otherwise you're going to feel, if you have an impractical way of going about it, people won't support you because they'll feel like your goals are too impossible. So make it practical, and then you'll find that people will come and help you in what you feel that needs to be done on the earth, or how you feel you can share your light and reward the planet. So there is, by the way, the word reward comes up a lot. There's lots of rewards in store for you if you follow that balanced path. If you become cruel, selfish, self-destructive, get disappointed with everything, take a poor look at life, and take that perspective, then of course, that in itself will be its own unreward, so to speak. So the reward is not to do that, but be brave in the face of this life. Brave through the confidence of your own spirit, and realize you're a true survivor, and realize that you're a happy survivor. You're a person that really enjoys the beauty of life. You're a person that really does bring forth beauty to others as well. And you're a peacemaker. Ultimately, as you mature in this life, you'll become more increasingly extroverted and optimistic. Like I said before, you got shut down in some past experience. Like my parents used to always say, children should be seen and not heard. It kind of shut my creativity down when I was young. Or I thought it did, until I realized that, it wasn't the case. But you're also going to go through that arc of realizing that, you don't have to shell yourself away from the world. You're going to get more extroverted and optimistic, and your creativity will markedly improve. Your ability to communicate substantially improves, And so you're going to find out that you're much more of a people person than you thought when you first entered this world. You came into this world with a little bit of caution about people. I'm not so sure I can trust them, and that's because of certain experiences you've had in the past. But a lot of that distrust goes, and you really have faith in life, and you see people as just beautiful and wonderful, and have no problem just dealing with even the most intimate emotions, with them. There's a wonderful vulnerability that human beings have that's, envied by many of the higher-ups and other levels of creation. To be able to feel to that depth where we feel insecure is astonishing to some other dimensional beings, because they realize that we're all awareness and whole, and nothing can can stop the initial wholeness from which we all come, the invulnerableness. So to see a human being experiencing the delight of discovering that invulnerability through a vulnerable human life is an amazing wake-up. And every time somebody wakes up on this planet, it's like they get applauded by all those beings looking down and saying, look, that one lit up. And so for you to rely on your own strengths and your strength of the light within, and to realize that you don't always need to follow the beaten path, but you do need to believe in your own self and do all the good you can on all levels through service, through help to the community, help to the family of mankind in a greater sense, just by being yourself, being highly inventive, unconventional, developing those intimate relationships with people, going out and exploring and traveling, adapting, make the world your fireplace. That's a passion of yours. No, you don't overindulge. Whatever you do, keep it in a balance. But you'll want to taste a little bit of everything in life. But, don't do it rashly. You don't want to jump into a volcano just to see what it's like, to swim in molten lava. Otherwise, you're not going to last in this life too long. But in balance, find out about life, discover, be curious. On a physical level, you have the ability to have a strong physical constitution, but if your mind gets in the way, it's going to bring you all kinds of aches and pains and immune system stuff, and it's not really anything inherently physical that's wrong with you. It's that the confused thinking that you're going through sort of expresses itself on a physical level as these traveling pains in the body. And so the good news is all of that can be healed up. And in the session you went through with me earlier this month, a lot of that was also made stronger. Mentally speaking, very creative, very talented, inventive. Be careful not to scatter mentally, kind of find a general focus that you want to go forth in your life with, even if it's just to say to live is to give, and that's sort of my focus. It's very generalized, but it really helps, especially through those periods of confusion. And it helps for you to, not feel like you're totally mentally adrift at sea. There is a certain trajectory. And of course, follow your direction, universality and sharing with people. This session should help a lot in terms of keeping away the general confusion, because you'll just play this every time you go through a severe period of that. Brings you right back on track. Emotionally speaking, you have a powerful curiosity about people, about places, about the emotions in general. So it's a curiosity, and yet at the same time I want to find out, but I'm a little scared of it, to delve into these deep emotional relationships. And what happens if we don't express that with others, we express that within our own selves by having moodiness, When you are moody, drink a lot of water. It helps keeping the moods going, and so that you don't identify and stress out on one mood. But you are a born observer, and you don't miss much. But part of that observation is to realize how I feel when I'm in this situation, or when I'm in this relationship or that relationship. So you don't want to miss out on your curiosity about what it's like to feel this way or that way in the human relationship realm. And intuitively speaking, you're extremely intuitive and spiritual. And, we don't want to be too attached to spiritual formulas or philosophies. We just really want to stay centered in our heart and listen to what we know to be true in our heart. Not our head, which tells us this is that and that and the other thing, and we need to have more, and we're not enough, and all of that stuff. But really how our heart feels and what makes our heart open and feel loving and blissful. And you have been a teacher and a minister in many, many lifetimes on this planet. You'll have lots of psychic experiences too, and related to friends and relatives, and also dreams. And because of the gift of prophecy, you might even have prophetic dreams. But try to be more lighthearted, the records say, towards emotionally charged issues. I know it's hard, because here you are all emotionally charged and everything, but try to, sit with that emotion until you get more lighthearted about it. Realize it's just a dramatic feeling that's coming up and moving out into the universe. And definitely, this will help control the anger. it really controls the anger, not by opposing the anger, but by acknowledging it and letting it drift out and dissipate into the universe. And this kind of discipline can be your real strength, because it keeps you looking at the larger picture, you know. And the larger picture, by the way, when we have it, always asks us to be flexible enough to compromise, you know, not to stay polarized. I always say, when two people are fighting, the one who wins the fight is the one that gives up fighting first. So you've got this sense of justice, you know, that has to be elevated to another level, where it becomes a sense of forgiveness and compassion and deep understanding, you know, because there's no justice in this world, except really true forgiveness, just to forgive yourself for taking a circumstance to be greater than what you really are, as the awareness in which circumstances come and go. None of them are particularly important. They're just how the infinite looks in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment. And so you have to kind of take this multidimensional outlook of life and forgive everything, you know, even as it comes and as it leaves, and just let it all be, and just find the beauty of it all. And don't get that sense of outrage or injustice, you know, because there's nothing unjust in the universe. Everything happens by virtue of source. You know, everything comes from source. So if it's happening, it was allowed. You know, who am I to say no? You know, so we get out of that ego sense of needing to control anything. So, so be practical. You know, do the most practical thing, which is to love yourself and love the circumstances. But love yourself more than the circumstances. And don't stay rigid, because that leads to outrage and feeling like you have to prove that you're right. And all these kinds of judgments that rock the boat, you know. And when it comes to ambition and independence and the great drive that you have, make sure you let that earnestness and that passion be for what's real. And what's real is the awareness that's listening now. It's really the only thing that's real. I know we think everything else is real in the world of the senses. People, places, things, thoughts, moods, ideas, sensations, experience. We think they're really real. But they just really are coming and going. And you miss the point of the beauty of the wholeness of life if you get lost in those senses, you know. So a little bit of balance like that with a little bit of willingness, willpower to know your own self beyond circumstances and appreciate your state of being, which is always whole, in and above any picture that looks like it's this way or that way. Finding the evenness of everything, nothing better, nothing worse. You know, that's really what you're going to start to have the perspective of. And there's no struggle, you know, because there's no ego, no problem. And subconsciously speaking, you've got a really powerful subconscious, as we saw when we worked with you earlier this month. When unexpected situations come in, you manage always to get the best of them. It's like that subconscious comes out and gives you a balanced view of it. And you do learn quickly, and you don't repeat the same mistakes. Although I will say, sometimes through repetition, you'll really learn how to be more efficient in what you do. And there's no waste of time about that. I mean, I have that same flavor. Sometimes I have to do something 3 or 4 times before I finally realize how to do it right. You know, so I learn through experience. It's not a waste of time. You have that also, so don't get frustrated if you don't do things perfect right the very first time. You know, enjoy learning and learning more richly until you finally get what really works for you and those around you. You know, and be patient with that. Again, there's a part of your subconscious, not the part that's the higher wisdom coming through, but a limited pattern in there that the higher wisdom knows about also, which really demands to be rewarded for your efforts. And that causes a lot of frustration when you're not. And the idea is just to let that go. You know, you're about giving, and it doesn't matter what you receive. And if you really truly work that way, you're going to receive everything you've always wanted. That's just how it works for you. But if you work like I'm giving and I better receive back, then it's going to be and life becomes a little bit of hell. and who needs a life of hell? The other thing about you subconsciously is you don't panic or scare easily. So, you kind of get a business-like attitude towards problems. And you really realize quickly on a practical level what needs to be done. You do have a good understanding of money and matter. And you are a survivor, and you do show leadership in organization, and you are physically courageous, spiritually courageous, and very confident. All right, my friend, that's what I have to say for you. Now we can talk about anything you'd like to talk about.
That was awesome. I mean, pretty much exactly what I needed. But, I just wrote down, like, a few things.
Sure.
I guess, I kind of like that whole, where you started out talking about the emerald and then you ended with like the strawberry and stuff. Like, I was trying to write it all down, but I really didn't get the chance. Like, I guess just what's like the main idea behind all that? It just kind of really jumped out at me.
Well, that's because you're going to develop multidimensionality this lifetime, and that's the part of the records reading where they talk about your multidimensional being, and how you're conversant on all levels of creation, and you resonate with certain levels better, like this idea of the strawberry sense and the color red and violet, I think, was part of it too. You're going to have this session, so you'll go back to that. You can write it all down at your leisure. But what it really talks about in general is the idea of understanding that I'm not just here in the box of this physical mind being, I'm also represented symbolically on all levels of creation. And if I open up to that, I open up to the wisdom of all those other parts of me on all other levels of creation. And that allows me to see the big picture. And guess what happens if you see the big picture? You don't get stuck being frustrated and confused about the small things that happen in your life. So it gives you more flexibility to be at ease with everything. But those were like little tips, like if you're feeling those bouts of confusion, or if you're feeling a lack of self-esteem, and you went to the store and bought like $1 or $2 vial of scented oil that has the scent of strawberry, do a little sniff of that. That could help during times like that. It's what your soul would resonate and help you remember that, you know what, there's a bigger picture to this, and I am the awareness that's watching this. I'm not stuck in the circumstance. So it was just little things like that that can be helpful. And when it said the colors, red being the passion and violet and green was your power color, it's so magical the ways, when we get around certain colors, it'll alter our mood or a vibration, which is what a mood is. And so those are little helpful hints, when you're feeling down one day, wear something green, or you're feeling like you don't have enough passion that day, put on something red, or have something violet in your environment because you're feeling separate from, when you wake up in the morning and feel like I'd like to kill everybody in the world, then you want to carry something purple with you to help you realize that you're empathetic and compassionate with everybody. So it's kind of the fun part of the reading, and I think I even state it that way. This is kind of a fun part. But the deep things that the reading talks about that you'll probably get more richly rewarded for is you'll hear some of the limitations that come up throughout the reading, and some get repeated strongly in many different ways. And if you catch them when they come up in your mind, and you remember the reading and say, oh, this is what I was warned about, not to collapse into this pattern, you have a much better chance of just letting it go, rather than acting on it, and staying on that treadmill of pain and pleasure, pain. You know what I mean? It gets to the point where you just look at pain and it's just the call to remember your own true self, and you look at pleasure and it's absolutely a remembrance of your true self. So everything becomes even in that sense.
Yeah. All right. I guess one of the other ones was I just had like a couple you said I had the gift of prophecy. I just kind of was curious about that. Like,
that's an amazing gift to have. That is, I once met Jean Dixon. I don't know if you know Jean Dixon. She's gone now. But Ruth Montgomery wrote a book about her called A Gift of Prophecy. And she was born as a little girl, and she always had this gift of having visions. In fact, she predicted Kennedy's assassination back in the 60s. And she was an amazing being, and just one of all the amazing beings that have a gift of prophecy. A gift of prophecy is an interesting thing, because, what are you going to do if you have a prophetic vision but you can't do anything about it? It kind of can be frustrating. But in general, what it is like being able to tell people when they're on a trajectory that's going to pay off well, or when they're on a trajectory that they might be, everybody can do whatever they want to do. We're all souls having a creative life that wants to explore certain themes. So we will never want to tell anybody not to do something. But we might want to say to them, with the gift of prophecy, you're not going to be happy. That doesn't mean that you're not going to learn a lot. But if your point is you want to be happy, you might want to try it this way instead of that way. You know what I mean? So that's how you, that's how you use the gift of prophecy. But you never interfere in anybody's life and tell them they shouldn't do something, because you never know what they're going to learn. That might be the one thing they needed to learn. By contrast, what they prefer and what's more in alignment with their true nature.
That's good. That's...
So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of responsibility comes up with that. But what can I say? You've got it, and it's going to develop. That's going to start to develop primarily between 35 and 43. You're going to start using it a lot more 44 to 52. And from 53 on, everything seems to be really good. You're awake at that point.
Yeah.
And even earlier, if you're earnest enough.
Okay. And then I guess the last one, I just kind of wanted you to, because I've definitely heard of Dharma. I just really don't fully understand the concept, and you definitely talked about that.
It's your path. Everybody's Dharma is just like saying everybody has a path. Everybody, see, there's one I am that we all are split off factions of, and this one I am, which is a presence, because everybody feels the presence of the I am. Nobody says they're not present. So it's that presence that we are, but in order to have a presence, you have to have a world in which to be present too. So the I am created a world in which to be present too. So that world is the collective dream that we're all having. But our path is our specific way of engaging in that collective dream. Some people may want to explore being an actor. Some people might want to be an engineer. So it's still within the collective dream that the I am is dreaming, but it's exploring a different possibility of that dream. So, I'm having a different path than what you're having, and somebody else might be having. So this is our Dharma, the way we're walking. What makes us feel happiest, what we've come to explore. Like I'll walk into a party with you, and I'll look and I'll see, oh wow, I want to go talk to that person because they're a poet laureate, and I'm interested in poetry, and I think they're just great. And you might say, wow, I'm going to go over there and talk to that person because they're dealing with the cleanup industry of cannabis, and that's really what I'm excited about right now. So you see, it's the same party, but we're going to be exploring different factions that are more interesting to us, which is following our bliss. So that means you have to be true to what you've come to explore. Because you might get a lot of people around you this lifetime that says, oh, Austin, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. You should be doing everything I think you should be doing. And all of that is a lot of horse porky. You should be doing what you think you should be doing. What makes you excited. What makes you feel more loving and peaceful and satisfies your curiosity. Just do it in a balanced way. Make sure you're not doing anything. See, the real bad thing for you is when you allow yourself to be really irritated and impatient, and then you do something rash, and then the anger comes up. That's the one thing that you need to look at and say, that doesn't work for you or for anybody else. You know?
No, yeah, definitely.
That's just like being like a hissy fit child. I mean, we all do this, you know, but for you it can be devastating. I mean, you know, because it's something that you said, I really want to master this. You know, so when you say to the lords of the board of karma, so to speak, I really want to master something, they say, good. Then we're really going to slap your hand really hard if you do that. And you say, okay, bring it on. And then we come down here and, you know, we forget what we wanted to master and we get bammed, you know. But, so that's never going to be working for you. And one of the reasons why you do that is because you haven't really realized what perfection is. And perfection is the awareness that's listening right now. The awareness we both are right now. That brings you all the patience in the world. That's what the I Am presence is. It looks at the world it created with all love and all patience and all graciousness and gratitude. It loves the world that it created. It is a happy dream. It's meant to be. But we come down here with our specific things we want to explore, and we forget all of that we created the world. You know, and we start to be at odds with the world, and we say, it's not showing up the way it should, damn it. And it has to be the way I want it to be, because I'm right, you know. And that's when we get into these kind of crazy lives that cause a lot of frustration, and then we act out, and then we get bammed. Because we're way off track, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like completely pointless.
Yeah.
But the point is, we have to realize that it's pointless, you know, and then it automatically goes away. It's like, you know, it's like it only stays around when you think you can get some juice out of it. Or if I get really mad now and have a hissy fit, then I'll show them, or, you know, or whatever, you know. But when we see that it doesn't work, it's just, you know, pointless, and then all of a sudden something else starts to happen. We start to transform. We start to have a regenerated personality, which is what is in line for your personality to be regenerated into a system of thinking that's more spiritual and whole, rather than a system of thinking of, you know, I need to get what I want when I want it right now, otherwise it's unfair and I'm going to explode. You know?
Yeah.
So, it doesn't make sense because it's all you. There's only one being. That's that I Am presence, you know, and since you're the only being that is, what's worth not loving? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
I just the last thing was pretty much, I just kind of wanted to get like a general definition of like a universal person. You use that phrase a couple of times. I just never really heard it before.
Okay, let me tell you what that means. Universal just means everything, you know,
right.
All of the creations. And a universal being, as you go from a separate person to a universal being. Universal being is a person that knows that their being includes all things. And because all things are included, everything is connected. You know, nothing is disincluded. We don't look at what's in front of us as a universal being and say, I love everything except that son of a bitch across the street.
Yeah.
You know, that's when you're a universal being, everything is seen as part and parcel of yourself. Everything is a part of yourself and never apart from yourself. And it's treated accordingly with a connection of love and a connection of understanding and compassion. That's what it means to be a universal being. It means you've opened your heart to just complete, uninterrupted openness, where everything's included. There's nothing in you that says, nope, not that. You know, where I draw the line at that. You know what I mean? That's gone. Those judgments are gone. Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah. That's awesome. I really think that's the perfect place to end right there. So.
Okay, my man. Well, thank you so much for taking advantage of my work, and I just hope you listen to it. I do timing of your reading lives also, you know, which is, you know, it goes through a 6-month period, and many people, you know, check in every 6 months, and not that, and you have to do that. You're complete as you are, but especially if you're going through a patch of your life that, you know, some of the confusion is coming up, or you have a decision to make. it could be helpful. So I'm available
Yeah.
for that. You can reach me through email with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think the next thing I might want to do is the Profound Peace session.
Yeah, while you're here, when are you leaving, by the way?
We actually had to push it back a couple weeks, so we're not leaving till like mid-December, like December 14th. Or I mean, September 14th.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll set that up. Yeah, that you would have to travel to me to come here, and we'd put you on the table and then do the peace healing. But I think you'll really enjoy it. It brings in the ETs. That'd be interesting. And it also brings in the Ascended Masters. So they'll really do a lot to help with the RNA, DNA, and also with opening your heart for the grace. That would be interesting. You email me when you feel you want to do that.
Okay, I definitely will.
Okay, and I'll send this out to you. There'll be 2 files, and I think you'll find they'll be very clear and useful.
I mean, yeah, you have no idea how perfect this was for what I've been going through over the past few days. I mean,
Good. I'm glad.
I was hoping this is what it was being, and it was perfect.
Yeah, and you're going to find every time you listen to it, you're always going to hear something that's going to be perfect for that moment, no matter. That's why it's a lifetime reading. So use it for that. Whenever you're feeling confused or have a decision, there'll be some part of this reading that you'll hear that'll say, okay, that's what I needed to know.
Right.
So that's good. So let me get it out to you, and you'll have it within about 15 minutes. And just enjoy, my friend, and I'll hear from you in the future in the email, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, man. I love you a lot.
I love you a lot, Austin. You take care, bud. Bye-bye.
Later, buddy.